The member from Kenora-Rainy River.
To the Premier. Speaker, Josiah Begg, 14 years old, found dead in the McIntyre River in Thunder Bay on May 18th. Tammy Keeash, 17 years old, found dead in the McIntyre River less than 2 weeks earlier. Stacy DeBungee, 41, found dead in the river in 2015. 3 more deaths to add to the 7 unexplained deaths of young First Nations people in the river in the last decade. There to pursue a public education and health care they can't get in their home communities. I named those 7 students as well and called on this government to investigate what happened to them. A year ago, the coroner's inquest made a list of recommendations, including for this Liberal government. What has been done?
Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services.
Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services.
Thank you very much, and I thank the member opposite for that question. And as I said to Grand Chief Fiddler and Chief Leonard yesterday, on behalf of all of us, our condolence to the loss of lives that's been taking place, and certainly as the minister responsible, we want to make sure, and I would say on this side of the House, we really would like to address the situation, and we are addressing the situation, Mr. Speaker. We are completely committed to working with our First Nation partners. We value the positive relationship we have with Indigenous community across our province, and at this point, the member fully knows that there's a component that, because of the ongoing reviews that are taking place, I am unable to answer some details, but I have full confidence, as we know, on the OCPC, the Ontario Civilian Police Commission, and the OC, the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, that will conduct a thorough and a fair review.
Supplementary.
To clarify, my question is about action and what this Liberal government has done. In fact, the jury in the coroner's inquest recommended that all levels of government, including this Liberal government, acknowledge that without improvement of conditions in First Nations reserve communities, a gap in education outcomes between Indigenous and non-Indigenous students will remain. And where jurisdictional divisions between governments threaten to delay services, such as equality of on-reserve education or funding for First Nations children, that the government of first contact should provide the services or funding without delay. So I ask again, without excuses, without passing the buck, what has this government done to act on the recommendations into the ongoing deaths in Thunder Bay?
Minister.
To the Minister of Indigenous and Reconciliation.
Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation.
The question is a fair one. It's an important one. So much of what happens to Indigenous youth here in Ontario, and particularly with respect to your question in northwestern Ontario, revolves around the issue of education. And education is a responsibility that the federal government and the provincial government share. We are working with the federal government to facilitate ways in which those children who are sent from, for instance, the northern remote communities to the southern communities to complete their high school, that they can find that education in southern Ontario in a culturally environment and in a protected environment. Many of the youths that come from northern Ontario to the remotes, they're 13 or 14, they find themselves in very difficult circumstances in Thunder Bay and the larger cities. We are working to provide a situation in Thunder Bay where they can achieve their education